Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you all to today's Advisicon Academy training. My name is Mina Inquist and I'm a marketing assistant here at Advisicon. We are a group of authors, teachers, consultants, and technologists offering training in Microsoft technologies and project management and methodology. With attending any of our training sessions, we offer PDUs as we are a registered education provider with the Project Management Institute. At the close of today's session, I will give some instructions on how to claim your PDUs and how to contact Advisicon for any questions you may have. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few things so you know how to participate in today's event. Please review the control panel that should be on the top right of your screen. The audience is muted during the session, so in order to ask questions, you will need to submit them in the questions window of the control panel. This webinar will be recorded and uploaded on the Advisicon YouTube channel for those who could not attend today's session live. Please note that any questions or comments submitted will not display in the recording, nor will any of your personal information be shared. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's instructor, Charles TITUS, who was our functional analyst and who I will now hand this presentation over to.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Charles TITUS. I am a functional analyst. A little bit about myself. I'm a certified Scrum product owner, certified Scrum master. I did a lot of studying in enterprise architecture. I have some experience there as well, and I am TOGAF certified. It's the Open Group Architecture Framework. I have certification there, and also a certified enterprise architect from the Enterprise Architecture Center of Excellence. My recent work experience is about 7 years in aerospace. And while there, I helped the company transition from generally all waterfall style project management to more of an Agile and Scrum discipline. A little bit about the transition. Our Agile to Scrum transition took about a year to complete. Kind of the first step we did was we sent everybody to Scrum training. So everybody had at least the Scrum Masters training, and most people did get their certification. And then a few individuals were sent to the product owner certification as well. We had Team Foundation Server, TFS, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with, but we wanted a more simple and intuitive tool to develop our BI reports, which was our Scrum team was focusing on. So we purchased an Agile tool called Jira. It's one of my favorite tools. I really liked it. We set our sprints to about 2 weeks, which allowed for the meetings to be executed and a lot of development to get done in those 2 weeks. We developed Power BI as well as SSRS reports. We also delivered training on Power BI because it was a new tool to our company and our customers. And we focused on the sprint and maturing our Scrum process and our Scrum discipline first, and then started to show the business the value of Agile discipline and the Agile development. So some of the topics that I'll discuss today are Agile. I won't read you from the book. I'll just kind of cover in high level events, artifacts, and roles in Scrum development, common Agile tools, tool selection considerations. I'll talk about Azure DevOps because that's what we're currently using here at Advisicon, and then I'll talk about how it integrates with Project Online. Arming employees with tools, know-how, and mindset needed to successfully innovate on a continual basis will be paramount to organizational survival. My experience and what I've seen is that technology development has always followed business needs that are identified usually through strategic planning, creation of a vision, a mission, goals and objectives by your strategic council or usually your executive leadership team. Once a company identifies new business capabilities that need to be realized to achieve the goals and the objectives to execute the mission and the vision, new tools are usually needed. So with the business capabilities, you have to have tools to automate process, to create an ability to, for instance, export goods to a foreign country. You need to be able to track your licenses and track countries and people that you're not allowed to ship to as well. So after the company creates the needs, then they find out that they need software or tools or products or capabilities. And so what happens is that creates a bottleneck in the technology discipline, because the business needs this capability now, and technology, the people in technology are just starting to create or look at purchasing the solution. While this is happening, I think that's why we have these different disciplines that have been developed. One of the disciplines is Agile. Agile development changes our tools faster for a fast changing business environment. Another discipline is enterprise architecture. It's based on what is your current architecture state, what do we use with the tools, the processes that we use now, what are our business capabilities now, and then where do we want to get to in the future. And then also you would create transition architecture. So you just do it in stages instead of trying to go from current state to future state in one step. You would take little steps to get to that final state. Agile Manifesto. So this is one thing I will talk about in Agile. So individuals and interactions over process and tools. Everybody is unique. No two people are created the same. Life experiences are all unique. So skills and experience will shape your communication styles. Body language is very important, but with the new work environment, more and more so, you have dislocated development teams, or could be around the world as well as around the country. So being able to communicate is a very important skill in Agile. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Creating a working product that a customer can click and look through and visualize the product and ensure they know that the product you're developing and the direction the team is going is truly what the customer is looking for and what they need. It helps to ensure buy-in as well from the customer on the development process as well as testing, and it ensures that what's being developed is what the customer is wanting. So a note of caution to working software over comprehensive documentation. My experience with my developers is they keep repeating this to me, but no documentation creates a significant amount of issues by itself. We had a scenario where a development team member left the company, was in the middle of developing a significant product for a high level customer in the company. No documentation was created. We didn't know how it was built or what was done and what wasn't, what was incomplete. And this increased our timeline, our project timeline, as well as the budget, and the customer satisfaction went way down. So the team must decide what type of documentation should be created based on their needs, and then the documentation should also be stored in a team area, not on a personal computer or on your work computer, sorry. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. How do you define a successful deployment of a tool? If the tool's deployed on time, on budget, within the scope, and it's bug-free, but the customer doesn't use it, is that your definition of success? It's all about how you feel about success. So how I define success is the tool's deployed and all the customers are using the tool. There could be bugs that they report, but they have a vested interest in helping you to resolve the issues, and then they have a positive outlook on the tool that you're providing them, and it is helpful to that customer. So responding to change over following a plan. Business is rapidly changing, depending on your industry, your market, and what type of products you deliver to the customers. Competition, technology, gaining market share. that can change the direction of your company as a whole or as a department. You can make a roadmap for a single year and change it every single month or every quarter, depending on new identified business need or market analysis that your company performs and finds new demand in a different area. You must be able to change your direction with the factors that impact your business, and that is why we moved towards an agile development methodology. So agile team roles and tool usage, 3 primary roles in agile teams. The product owner. The product owner is the single ringable neck. They're responsible for being the voice of the customer. They gather requirements, they create all the user stories, and they find out the priorities from the customer, and they prioritize them on the backlog with the customer for each sprint. I've noticed in the past that people have tried to prioritize requirements for 4 or 5 sprints, which could put you at like 8 to 10 weeks out. And by the time you get to those sprints, the priorities are already changing. The whole purpose of Agile is to be able to, you could prioritize 2 sprints, but no more than 2 sprints, and then changing priorities are going to happen within 4 weeks if you do 2-week sprints. It's important for the product owner to understand the process, the business process, the roles involved in the process, as well as the customer. It's important to understand the needs and what the business capabilities is that they are creating or enabling, or what processes they're automating. The next role is the Scrum Master or Team Facilitator. So Agile calls it the Team Facilitator, but Scrum calls it the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is a servant leader. It's not a position of authority, but facilitation. They provide a productive environment for the development team to complete sprint tasks. They remove any roadblocks for the development team that might be identified. They work with the product owner to groom the backlog before each sprint. And they can assist the product owner in customer-facing tasks if needed. They can talk to the customer, gather requirements, and create user stories as well. The development team, so Agile or Scrum team. Usually the sizes are they could be 1 to 12. In a one-person team, it's not very collaborative. Most of the teams that I worked with, we were between 5 and 7 individuals, and that seems pretty darn effective as far as what I've seen. The teams are self-organizing, they're cross-functional, and they are responsible for identifying any missing skill sets when developing products. They can perform all the interviews of internal and external candidates to be hired into the Scrum team or Agile team, and they should have the final decision on new members. Agile and Scrum, the events in Scrum, sprint planning. So the participants of sprint planning are the product owner. They mostly elaborate on priority, and Scrum Master facilitates and schedules the meeting. Dev team applies the Fibonacci scores. My experience has been that the product owner leads this meeting. The Scrum Master is there just to help the team and break ties. The activity, the product owner introduces the priority and answers questions from the dev team. So they're the voice of the customer, so they help elaborate on any questions that the dev team may still have. Development team pulls the tasks into the sprint based on the priority. They rate the tasks based on complexity. So the complexity is based on a Fibonacci sequence and relative complexity. Scores start at 1, they go 2, 3, 5, 8. Basically, you take the 2 numbers before and you add them together to create the next number. They go 13, 21, 34, 55, and 89. My experience has been that we've never had anything more complex than a 21 that was pulled into a sprint. Most of the things are around a 5 or an 8. The conflict is between project management and the project management discipline, which rates tasks in hours, and Agile, which rates story points in complexity using the Fibonacci sequence. Each member of the development team votes on the complexity of each of the specific task. They negotiate and discuss the complexity until a unanimous decision is reached. If for some reason there is a tie, the Scrum Master breaks the tie. The daily stand-up. Participants in the daily stand-up are Scrum Master and Dev team only. Product owner can attend, but they're not supposed to participate in that meeting. The activity, basically it's a 15-minute meeting. You cover what I did yesterday, what am I doing today, and any roadblocks that I'm running into. The Scrum Master is responsible for removing any of the roadblocks the Scrum team may have. Typically, a roadblock is things like a customer contacting the dev team directly when they're not supposed to, stopping development, asking questions, the product owner skipping over the Scrum Master and going straight to the dev team. And then there's also, things like in the office, you have walk-bys where people walk by and distract your Scrum team members as well. Sprint review. So sprint review meeting, the participants are the Scrum Master, they're a development team, and the product owner. So the activity after a sprint is completed, the Scrum and Agile team gives a demo of their increment. Increments can be functionality, capability within a larger product, or just as simple as a report. As the Agile team matures, stakeholders and customers will be invited to the sprint reviews to provide feedback, ask questions on the increments that have been developed during that sprint. I've noticed that when we were switching to Scrum, it was at least a month and a half, so at least 3 to 4 sprints before we invited any stakeholders or customers, because we wanted to ensure that our process was up to speed. Product owner records all the feedback from the customers, as well as questions, and if necessary, they add any new items, new requirements to the product backlog that will be groomed with the customer for the next sprint. The sprint retrospective. The participants are the Scrum Master, development team, and the product owner. The activity after the sprint review, the questions that I used to have them answer is what went well during the sprint, what didn't go well, what can we improve as a team. Some of the things we used to talk about: our process, our Scrum discipline, our Agile discipline, what were the roadblocks that we kept running into, and communication, and how effective was the Scrum Master in removing the roadblocks? What can each individual do a little better? How do we handle different scenarios to ensure that our development is more efficient? So some of the commonly used tools, Monday.com. I've seen this one in the mornings when I'm watching TV. I see Monday.com all the time, so it looks like a very interesting, I think it's a newer tool. Jira is the tool that I've used. I loved it. It was great, very intuitive, very simple. They have things like Agile, Azure DevOps is what we're using now. It's pretty effective tool, as well as it integrates with projects. So if you have project managers that are managing projects, you can actually push over automatically with a connection tool, push over tasks into the project plan. I'm going to show you where I got the tools from. So this up here is the 2019 top rated Agile tools. I'm sorry for fast scrolling. So I have this hyperlink in one of the last slides. You can also look on your own, but basically this rates the top 10 best Agile tools for 2019. And it goes through and kind of describes the tools. It also has hyperlinks for free trials. If you all are interested after the presentation, you can go and look and do a little research. It has a lot of the costs associated. the pros and the cons of each of those tools. One thing I found was interesting down here at number 9, which is Azure DevOps, is they only showed the dashboard. They didn't show any of the areas where you actually build out products and build out projects. So I found that kind of interesting, and almost seems like they favor different tools over that tool by the way they laid out the web page, but that was just my opinion. So key considerations on tools, features. Does it sync with a calendar? Does it support time tracking, milestones? If you manage projects as well as develop products within the projects, those would be very important. What type of reporting does it offer? Can you pull up a dashboard? Can you see burn down charts? What can you see burn up charts? All those things related to the development as well as the project schedule and if you're on time, in scope and within budget. What type of views are supported? Can you do Kanban or Agile or Scrum? And again, burn up, burn down charts, sprint reports, velocity charts. A lot of the developers I worked with hate velocity charts, but it gives the Scrum Master and the product owner a really good idea of how much work can get executed within a single sprint. It helps to be able to forecast and plan better. Also, visuals and interface, is it intuitive? Like I said, Jira is one of my favorites because it's so easy to use. The price, depending on if you're a large company, a small company, price will be very important. But of course, to the developer and to people who are using the tool, they just want the coolest tool or the easiest to use. Is it integration supported, APIs, developer tools supported? Are they all in one? Are they available mobile in a mobile app version? And how much support is offered? I think one cool thing with prices that I would like to mention is free trials. So a lot of those, that webpage I showed you, a lot of those have free trials you can click on and sample some of the software. So now down to DevOps. This is kind of how we lay out projects in our DevOps environment. The way you use your Agile tools will depend on many different factors. Your industry. My previous industry was aerospace. We used our tools completely different than we do here. It's more of a consulting environment. The way that you use them in a government type industry, it will be completely different as well. You're more concerned with security. BI reports, SharePoint, web applications, what are you developing, what are you creating? That will determine on how you use your tool. Also, who is the customer? Is it internal or external? So we have mostly external customers, so we have to link to project so we can manage the project and ensure that we're on budget for the customer. Customer products, like I said before, they usually have a bid or a quote, and then you have budgeted hours for that project. And the Agile Scrum tracks complexity, not hours. So therein lies your conflict. Again, it's hard to, you can't equate complexity with hours. Internal customer applications are completely different from my experience. We just build on capability, automating a process, creating a capability to, export goods, finished goods. We care about traceability, auditability, and security of the tool being developed. We also had business capabilities, and we tracked it on a roadmap for over a year, but the roadmap changed significantly from month to month. But it's always good to have a finish line, start and stop point. We create products for customers. We track everything in hours. So when we do estimates on tasks, we actually create hours. We don't do the Fibonacci score. So currently at Advisicon, the Azure DevOps does have some really good features. But one of the things we noticed that if we don't when we have a bug assigned, if we don't assign a task to that bug, we can't track the work associated with the bug. So one thing we've done, even though they're at the same level of hierarchy, we actually assign a bug to a task. So that task is pushed over to the project plan, and then we get to see it actually on the project plan itself. So here's the same task that I was just talking about, the resolve do not send connect from temp to client. And you can see that it did push over. One thing that I did notice, because this is new to me as well, is that the ID for the task in DevOps does not translate over to the project plan. They're two different IDs. So that can create an issue tracking it back to the actual DevOps environment. So I put up here some resources for Scrum. The scrumalliance.org, you get a free membership when you get your certification as a Scrum Master. The Brain Trust Group, that's who I got my certification from in the Portland area. And then this is the hyperlink that'll take you to the 2019 top rated Agile tools. Any questions?
We have one question right here. What is the most important skill or skill set to have as a product owner?
I think the most important skill set as a product owner is communication, having the soft skills, being able to understand the business, the process, the technology that the customer currently uses, and then what their requirements are. I think that knowing how they articulate their requirements and their understanding of requirements in software development is very important as well. I've dealt with customers that were they all had glasses and they needed bigger font size and differentiating colors within their user interface. So we had to make sure that the development, when it was done, there wasn't any gray or small checkboxes, and all the font sizes were big enough for them to read. So understanding your customer is very important to help the development team create a product that the customer can use.
All right, and looks like we have time for one more. How long did it take for you to transition from waterfall to agile?
So the transition from waterfall to agile took a little bit over, it was about a year, maybe a little bit more. The steps, I kind of covered them earlier that we went over. First, everybody needs to understand what Agile and Scrum is and how it can benefit the company. It's the most important thing. So training is always comes first. And then after you get the training, and then you start to look at the process and what we can use Agile development for, because you can't use it for every single project. But we used our Agile process for product development, internal product development, as well as BI and report development. The BI team had great success, and the customers were very happy with all of the reports and how fast we were getting them to the customer. And that's it.
All right, looks like we are ready to wrap up. I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. We welcome your questions and feedback. For more information, you can email us at contact@advisicon.com. Once you exit today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the presentation. You will need to complete and submit the survey to receive your PDUs. From there, you will receive a follow-up email within 2 business days with your PDO information. On behalf of Advisicon and Charles and myself, thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you participate in future webinars. Have a great day.